Hi guys, doing a special, another version of a CringeTastic movie. Yes, one of those movies where it's so cringe but fantastic. You absolutely just gotta love it. Obviously another canon film. I love the canon fairy tale films. My disclaimer, if you do go watch this movie, watch it solo first so you can enjoy it on your own. And then if you want to watch it with a group of friends and cringe over it in a fun way, go right ahead. So let's get started. This one is Snow White, and you may have figured out why I post this one so close to the other live action one that's coming out. That's probably because this will probably always be my favorite Snow White live action version. Let's go ahead and get into the movie, how the movie starts. Now, the stereotypical Snow White movie usually always starts with Snow White meeting the prince. In this one, you actually meet the prince first, and he's on this mission coming back home. He's done all these crusades, fought all these dragons, you know, the typical stereo, prince went to go get all this great stuff to bring back home. And for some reason, he still feels like he hasn't found that one thing he would treasure forever, that one beautiful thing he wants to keep with him that would make him feel like, worthy of the throne,
It's just that I love him. Stop looking at me.
That one thing. He doesn't know what it is. He's like, I wish I would have found it. We're bringing all this gold, we're bringing all these jewels, we're bringing all this. He's like, but I want that one treasure for me. So he basically starts going off and with his knights and stuff coming back home, and they notice they're in this weird forest, and they're like, don't remember this part, we're close to home, this is a new area, what's going on? The prince is like, you know what, you guys stay here, I'm gonna go check this out, something seems weird. So as he's going, he actually sees the traditional glass casket with Snow White in it, and actually gets attacked by a bird while going over to it. Now, when he actually gets there, he's, wow, she's very pretty. I wonder what happened to her. Oh, I bet she's under a spell or something, because, she doesn't look like she's gone. She just looks like she's sleeping. And at that point, the seven dwarfs show up. So it's really interesting because you're meeting the seven dwarfs and the prince before Snow White. And it's a really interesting take. At first the prince is like, what'd you do to her, da-da-da? And they're like, no, we're her friends. We're just trying to keep her and, safe and stuff. And they start telling him the story of Snow White. Of course, the beginning of the movie for Snow White's story starts off with her mom. She's in this whole setting with her ladies in waiting, sitting there, and she's like, I really just want to have a baby. She's all excited, and all the girls are like, oh, we're hoping. The king comes in and accidentally startles her because, he comes up behind her and goes, gives her a hug, and she freaks out and she hurts her finger. And he's like, put it in the snow, it'll help, relax the finger. And she does. And I guess he had heard her talking to her ladies in waiting. And it's like, I've also been dreaming of a child with, hair as black as these, shutters we have, and skin as white as the snow, and, cheeks as red as the blood that, is on there. And the thing is, that's one thing that does separate from the traditional stories. The traditional stories is the lips were supposed to be as red as blood, but hey, semantics. Let's keep going. So, of course, obviously they do have a baby. And the next scene goes to the king showing off the baby. He's so excited in front of his people. The people are cheering. And then a lady in waiting comes rushing in, and he looks panicked and he follows after her. And of course, that's where you see the queen is, not doing so well after childbirth, which is very typical back in these stories. And the king doesn't want her to leave, of course. And the queen says she needs a mom. You need to make sure she has a mom. Call her Snow White. So in this version, you actually find out why the king remarries. It's not that he needs another woman. It's because his wife wanted another mother for Snow White. And as this movie goes on, you do start seeing that he doesn't have any feelings for this queen. He's just hoping that she'll be a good mom. So, and it's a really sad scene because you see how much the king really loves his queen, and, he's a little nervous. Cut forward into the future after the queen has passed, we finally get to meet Snow White as a little girl, which is also a very uncommon thing. She's like, I'd say 7 or 8. Absolutely love this actress and the king and the way they play back and forth. So in this next scene is one of my favorite songs from the movie. I find it so cute and adorable. And it's basically just the king hanging out with her, getting ready, for bedtime, and they're joking and being just fun. And I absolutely love this song. It's one of my favorites. And actually, this is going to be the main art piece I do for this time lapse that I'm making in the background. So really cute scene. It does show how much the king does care for Snow White, and Snow White is his baby girl. And there's even a part where the queen interrupts them because there's a big ball going on downstairs and or wherever, and she has to go. We have to go. The king, you can tell just by this picture, he's looking at it like, please, I'm having my moment, you go away. You know, like he does not have any feelings for this woman. It is solely hoping that she'll be a good mom to Snow, and it's just, you know, very awkward for King not to be married at that point. As they're leaving and Snow is in bed, you actually hear him confront the queen like, hey, you know, what's going on, da da da. And she just brushes him off. Like, talk about the original gaslighting before gas was involved. But anyway, after that scene, Snow White is like, you know, a little curious about her stepmom, because she's not exactly the nicest woman under the sun, in my opinion. So Snow White goes and peeks in on Mommy Dearest and sees all these women in waiting, getting her ready. Now, I will be doing some foreshadowing in this, because there is some foreshadowing. For example, in this particular scene, she's getting her corset done. She wants it super tight so she looks super thin, and the women are trying their best to make sure she looks gorgeous. Then she, you know, the queen asks for, oh, give me a beautiful comb to wear, and she picks out this special comb, and the girls put the comb in her and accidentally pokes her. Queen goes ballistic and almost stabs the lady in waiting. Now, this is such a dark contrast from when you see the ladies in waiting at the beginning of the movie to now. They're very shy, they're very withdrawn, they're like, you know, don't make a wrong move, and whereas before they were giggling and joking with the queen. So you can definitely see the two different personalities from the two. So it's kind of a sad thing when you think about it, because you could see what Snow White could have had and what Snow White does have. But yeah, so she gets mad, tells the lady in waiting, you know, I never want to see that comb again. Once again, foreshadowing, this comb does come back up. The queen leaves and Snow White sneaks into the room. And at this point, we've already seen a little bit of the creepy night fuel mirror. This mirror is the nightmare existence for this movie. I mean, a lot of people are calling the new CGI Dorse in the new movie nightmarish. No, you want some nightmare fuel from a Snow White movie? This is it. I mean, seriously, they did really good with this mirror being creepy yet magical all at the same time. Snow White's trying to talk to the mirror. The, you know, mirror shows Snow White, hey, this is actually what I can do. Isn't this cool? Which creeps Snow White, because, you know, dude, creepy mirror's been staring at me while I'm doing stuff. So she bolts, leaves, hides under a blanket, and then the next day happens. Now, this is one thing that always confused me. She acts like nothing happened that night before and goes into her dad's room because her dad promised they would go hunting the next day. She shows up already. Funny part, whenever I see this is how I think a cute kid when they're trying to wake up their parent in a fun way. Not the, no offense to Simba, smacking himself into his dad's face. This is very cute, loving. You know, she comes in with her, like, you know, little hunting switch for the horse, and just like, you know, is gonna, you know, she's gonna go tap him on the nose to wake him up, and he grabs it and scares her. And cute little moment, once again showing that these two are a perfect cute little family. Absolutely wonderful. And then of course the evil queen butts in and does a little snarky, I'm trying to sleep here, and of course, you know, Snow and the king go away. And as they're going, the ladies in waiting are coming in with the queen's breakfast, and they basically mention how Snow White has become such a pretty little girl. She's gonna be so beautiful when she gets up. And then we get this look once again from Mother Dearest. You knew crud has hit the fan. And I mean, she's so mean to these poor girls once again. They bring in apples and fruit, and the one girl gets, so she grabs an apple from the one girl and then flips the tray up into the poor woman's face and tells them to leave. And then she gets grumpy and starts eating the apple. Once again, another foreshadowing. She's enjoying the apple after having a moment of anger and da da da. So she's looking out the window, seeing everybody getting ready for the hunt, including Snow White, and sees the huntsman. Her huntsman. So she started to piece together what she wants to do. Cue a song. The lighting for the evil queen definitely hits home on how she is not a natural being compared to the rest in the movie. The lighting is so insanely cool. I mean, very magical. Definitely takes it away from other parts of the movie, where the other parts of the movie are more natural and more, you know, flowing and pretty. These are very dramatic, changing. I'm very cool. Evil queen, very sassy. Very, very sassy. There are points in the song she reminds me of, I can't think of her name right now, from Emperor's New Grove, that actress. The sound she makes reminds me, I mean, these two could have been best friends in another life. All right. Just the way they sound and interact and how sassy beautiful they are. Absolutely love it. She calls the huntsman in and she's like, hey, here's the deal. I want you to kill Snow White and bring me her liver. And the huntsman's like, kill the next heir to the throne. No. And she's like, okay, then I want your liver. And he's like, okay, maybe not a good, all right. Okay, sure, yeah. And so she's like, all right, so you're gonna take this dagger, bring me her liver, and here's a bag of coins. It's like the loyalty to the queen. Now, he didn't want to do it. He's like, nope. And she's like, well, yeah, I either get rid of you or you get rid of her and I give you money. Which one would you pick? So he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Then the huntsman tells the king to, try to get some time with Snow White. He's like, hey, I'm worried Snow White's gonna get, trailed back from the rest of the hunting group because, these are serious people, spectators, sportsmen. I'll hang out with Snow White and make sure she's safe. King's like, you got a point. I don't want my little girl getting lost in the woods. Cue point of the, guy planning to take out Snow White. And he hears a noise, freaks out. It's a goat. And then Snow White's like, well, I can get away. I can live in the woods. I'll never come back. Da-da-da. He's like, okay, perfect. I'll get the goat's liver, give that to your stepmother, and you can live. So, of course, Snow White gets away. And cue this interesting scene with her going from where she's at to where the dwarfs are is kind of interesting. They throw all these different kinds of animals in it to let you know that she's no longer in that traditional woods, which is mentioned at the beginning with the prince. Like, he's like, we've never been to this section of the woods, where this wood's not even on the maps, and here she is magically being thrown into this area where the dwarfs are. I mean, she's passing wolves, monkeys, python snakes, all these random different kinds of animals, and it lets you know how much of a difference there are in the area. And they do this awesome tumble scene with her going down this hill in leaves. Really good cinematic for me. This was made in the 80s, so there is some goofy CGI and lighting techniques, but hey, it works. Let's keep going. She does try knocking on the door before going in. She doesn't automatically, and then she goes in, and then she becomes rude and does a Goldilocks thing where she goes to all the plates of the 7 dwarves and tries it. What is this like? Does this taste good? And she basically has her fill. And then she goes into this cute little rhymey song about how she's tired and where should she sleep. And I kid you not, these 7 dwarves, their names are not that different, but my goodness, their beds are. Holy cow. Some of these beds are so insane. Like, one's literally a plank of wood and it's so narrow. And then there's another one that looks like a boat and she's like knocking on it. And it's like, this is a hard bed. Then there's the very super springy one that every kid wished they had because it's like a trampoline. And my favorite bed I probably like is the one that's like a beanbag where she jumps into it and it deflates and she sinks into it. I'm not kidding. That looks like a perfect movie candy book night kind of bed. And then she winds up on the last bed at the end. Go figure, the final one is the right one. Like, told you, she totally sneaks into like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears moment. And that song. So she falls asleep. And of course, a few minutes later, the doors show up and they're like, why is the front door open? What's going on? Eventually they wind up going in and they start eating and they're like, hey, somebody's been messing with my porridge, so they do the whole bear thing and they go to the beds. And I find this so funny because the one with the boat hard shaped bed is like, someone knocked on my bed. How do you know if someone knocks on your stone? Okay, magical creatures, let's keep going. So eventually they find Snow White, of course, doing her wonderful Goldilocks skit in the bed. And it's pretty funny because they're like, well, we can't wake her up and we can't move her. And so they're like, well, she can't stay in there. That's my bed. And they're like, well, how about this? You'll spend an hour with each of us, which literally turns into a little funny skit of like 5 seconds in each bed. But anyway. So the next day, they obviously meet Snow White. Snow White kind of informs them what's going on. And, just a cute little friendly moment, like, da 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 da. And she's like, well, I have nowhere to go. And then they're like, okay. And then they're like, all right, let's chat. And they're like talking and they're talking. And they're like, well, it'd be nice to come home to a warm meal. And she's super sweet and she's in trouble. So they go over to her, like, okay, like, we do have this house, we can make you a bed. You can stay here, just all we ask is for help cleaning around the house. And, could you make us dinner when we come home? Snow White's like, free room and board. All right, I'm hooking up that. Let's face it. If you're trying to rent an apartment right now or a house and live in a house, this is like a golden deal. You get free food and board and all you got to do is clean up this little cabin and food. Psh, I'd sign up for that. Do it. So Snow White's all game for it and they become good friends and basically, yeah. So the evil queen heads back home and gets this new gorgeous dress and she's like, oh, I gotta look great in it. It's like the stereotypical Disney style Snow White outfit, which I thought was kind of funny. And she's like, oh, I feel so great. Hey, magic mirror, ain't I the most beautiful? And the magic mirror's like, yeah, no, that girl you tried killing a couple years ago, yeah, she's still alive and she's still prettier than you. And she's like, how dare you? Of course, so now she's gonna do her thing to, seek vengeance. So at this point, it kind of goes back and forth between what she's doing and what the dwarfs are doing. And holler to anybody that loves their little mushroom hat fad that's going out. This has to be where it started because all these dudes have mushroom hats and they have candle. They got the extra boost. They got the candles in their mushroom hats. So kudos to the wonderful dwarfs of the Snow White movie having the mushroom hats way before it was cool. So it's a cute little song at this point with Snow White at the house and the dwarves, mining and trying to get, doing their job. And it's kind of cute because it kind of lets you know that Snow White loves the dwarves. She doesn't want to leave, but she kind of has to because, she's getting bigger. She's a, grown woman at this point. Her skirt has gotten extra long with things she's had to add to the dress. And I mean, her clothes that she used to wear don't even fit her anymore. And she's basically hitting the roof of the house. And in her mind, she's, been wanting to find a prince somewhere where she could live happily ever after, which is, the stereotypical, come on, all little girls at one point wanted that Prince Charming to show up. So she's, dreaming of that, but, in the same respect, she loves her 7 dwarves and, she knows she'll have to leave them. And they're kind of just excited to see Snow White when they get back home. And it's a cute little thing. It's very much like a parent, coming home to their kid and the kid's ready to leave the nest. It's kind of very sad, but it's a very cute, sweet moment. So at this point, Snow White is currently setting up dinner, getting everything ready, and she hears someone singing in the distance or saying they're selling something. So she goes to the door and, oh, hello, there's a lovely lady with a cute bird on her shoulder selling pretty ribbons for corsets and corsets themselves. Flashback once again. This is foreshadowing. And spoilers alert, this movie was made in the 80s. If you want to go see it, stop the movie right now and go check it out because this is when the story starts going. Once again, made in the 80s. So here's your spoiler alert. Anyway, let's keep going. So the lady's like, oh, you don't have a pretty corset? Well, here's a pretty corset and let me tie that up for you. Make it look really nice. Oh, pretty ribbons, da 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 da. And let me just totally tie the corset so tight you can't breathe. She should know because, like I said in the foreshadowing, the evil queen was being tied up and this is obviously the evil queen. And I love how she does this side talk to her parrot after she rips off her wig, like, we got her. It's like that poor parrot doesn't even know what the heck's going on. But absolutely cute scene with the bird. So she takes her little wagon and disappears, and of course the dwarfs come home and they notice something's wrong because Snow White's not waiting for them. And that's when they find her passed out on the ground. Now these dwarfs are very, very smart. I absolutely love it because, they're always there for Snow. They're, like parents. It's awesome. So they obviously notice that, hey, that's a new corset. She's never had that. And then they flip her and see that she's all bound up super tight with a ribbon and they cut it. Snow White wakes up and they're like, that had to be the evil queen. Like, seriously, that had to be the evil queen causing all that trouble. She's like, well, thank you guys. You saved me. And like, you can't open the door. Don't open no door for anybody from now on. And she's like, okay. So we flash back to the queen and she's like, ha, I won. I'm gonna make myself pretty. I'm gonna take a nice little warm bath with all these pretty scents in them, and you know, da da. And this part always confused me as a kid, because she's like, oh, you know, oil of jasmine and petals of roses, and then she's like, milk, and they dump this milk over her face in this hot bathtub, and I'm just like, that's gonna be nasty. Like, even as a kid, I was like, that's gotta be nasty. Now, as an adult, I have a sinking feeling this is a throwback to a lot of women back in the day doing that, you know, pouring milk on them, keep their skin young. Either way, as a kid, this was hilarious to me. I thought it was funny. But she's trying to make herself all pretty, gets all dolled up, goes in front of the mirror and says, mirror, mirror, am I the most gorgeous woman in the world? And the mirror's like, haha, no. The dwarfs showed up and saved Snow White. So good try, very good try. And of course she's peeved off again, like, are you kidding me? And that's when she's like, hey, I have an idea to get rid of her, and I'm gonna go with it. Once again, guys, 80s. She basically says, hey, this is an Oriental themed poison, I'm gonna go with it. So she actually dresses up very traditional in Japanese garb, wearing a kimono, doing her face up and everything like that. And I mean, this shot of her coming through the woods I find absolutely gorgeous, personally. It's a gorgeous picture. I love the cinematography in the scene. Not so much when she talks, because horrible talking. But anyway, so she shows up and she's like, hey, Snow White, or, you know, doesn't know who she is. Hello, pretty lady. You know, can I rest here? And Snow's like, I can't let you in. I'm sorry. I would love to let you in, but I can't. And she's like, well, can I sit right out here? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. So she's talking to this, you know, beautiful lady outside the door, Snow is, and she's like, oh, you know, are you okay? And the you know, the evil queen in disguise is like, oh, yes. She's like, oh, thank you so much for letting me rest here. I'm just so tired. Hey, let me give you a gift. How about this pretty comb? Once again, here's the gorgeous comb that she told the lady she never wanted to see again. And, well, she's hoping to use it now. Of course, Snow White is like, oh, that's so pretty, because it is pretty. It's absolutely gorgeous. She thinks it's, you know, fantastic. And she's like, well, I can't let you in. And the evil queen's like, well, how about you just open the door and I'll put it in your hair, you know? And she's like, oh, okay. So she actually turns around, and in the reflection of the door window, she's like, wait a minute, I seen that comb. And at that point, too late, you're done. She's down. So of course, you know, the queen is like, ha, I won again. Runs off thinking she won again. Of course, the dwarfs show up, and this one was pretty easy. Hey, shiny comb that none of us could ever afford or make. Let's pull it out, and she's awake again. I swear this woman is just like passing out all the time. And of course, they tell her, you cannot open the door. Golly. So at this point, they actually destroy the comb, and the queen sees them destroy the comb, realizes she loses, and she basically loses her cool, like starts flinging stuff everywhere. She's like, I need to get rid of this person. What am I gonna do? She hears a knock on the door. Ladies in waiting with a snack. She says, leave it at the door, grabs it, takes a bite out of the apple, and then goes, So she's like, I got a perfect plan now. So she opens the mirror, goes to her secret, you know, witchy type area, like in the Disney version. And I love it when she looks through her books. Her books are absolutely hilarious. Like, the book she's looking for is the Poison Book Cookbook. Like, come on. That is like so hilariously funny, but cringe. Absolutely love it. So once again, the lighting is crazy, insane. All that fuels it. And she obviously makes the apple. Now, here's something different with this. She purposely wants to make sure that Snow White completely trusts her, because she knows that they said don't open the door. So what she does is she actually cuts the poison apple in half and cuts this other apple. Now, the other apple is like pure white, which always confused me as a kid, but I kind of understand they're trying to show the difference of the two when the scene happens, because if the apple looks like just a plain apple, a lot of people may not get it. It was really cool for visual effect though. So she basically puts a worm in the white apple side, and the poison apple side, she like glues them together with some weird like concoction, and you know, has her apple ready. Now she needs to get ready for a disguise. At this point, the dwarfs are saying goodbye. They're doing their traditional thing of, hey, you know, we're going, blah, 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 blah. And one of the dwarfs is a little sneaky little troublemaker and eats Snow White porridge for her breakfast. Like, seriously, dude, come on. And, you know, she shoos him out and stuff like that. And she's she's like, you guys have a good day, does the annual goodbye and da-da-da-da-da. And she goes back to eat her breakfast, and no, he ate it. Okay, great. And then she goes outside to, check the berry bushes. Are any berry? No, he ate all the berry bushes too. Okay. So now she's like, well, I guess I'll have to wait until later to eat. At this point, she sees an old lady coming up the, path in the woods. So she instantly is like, not doing this. I'm shutting the windows. I'm closing the blinds. I'm doing everything. And she's sitting right up against the door. She's like, no, I ain't letting nobody in. I ain't letting nothing. This ain't happening. And then she hears the lady saying, selling fresh apples. And right then her stomach rebels and she holds her stomach. She's like, gosh, dang it. And then she opens the door for the lady, and the lady's like, hey, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, I have fresh apples. And Snow's like, no, I'm sorry, not letting you in. Oh, come on, I'll let you have one. And she's like, no, I'm sorry, have a good day. And then the lady's like, well, you know what? Is it okay? We can share it if you don't trust me. And she cuts the apple in half, right almost directly down the white and red. And she gives the red instantly to Snow White. And Snow White's like, oh, okay. And then Snow White's like, wait, no, I want that piece that you got. And the lady's like, oh, sure, here, let me give you the white piece. And so Snow White takes the white one, and of course the worm's in there wiggling and all gross and stuff. Snow's like, oh no, thank you. And then the lady's like, well, I'll take it. It's just a little worm. I don't mind. Here, take the red one back. I mean, the evil queen got this down. Like, she's like, I'm gonna trick every chance I can to make sure you eat this thing. So of course they both take a bite. Snow White actually waits to see her take a bite before she takes a bite. Like, I mean, Snow White was trying to be smart, but my goodness, this evil queen had her completely wrapped around the finger without even knowing. So of course Snow White eats it and falls to the ground. Next we see the queen in full dress in front of the mirror, and the mirror's like, hey, you're actually the prettiest woman around now. And the queen's super like, finally won. So she's all stoked. The dwarfs show up, and they can't do anything because they see she eats something. And that's when they're like, well, you know what, we can't just bury her. She looks like she's not even gone. She looks like she's sleeping. They're like, let's put her in a golden casket and we'll visit her every day. And then one's like, well, we can't protect her all the time. And one of them's like, well, no, the birds will protect her while we're at work, and we'll come and see her and we'll guard her at night. So, and then it goes into this nice time lapse where you see Snow White change from spring, fall to winter. And now it cuts back to the dwarfs talking to the prince, because she's been asleep for almost like a year or so at this point. And they're talking to the prince, and the prince is like, this is such a sad story, I can't believe this would happen to her. And he's just like, maybe I could take her to my castle and we could find a way to break the spell. Like, it's not even like true love's kiss is even on the playing field at this point. It's just, I want to, I feel for her, she's so sweet, let me take her to my castle, maybe we can find a way to cure her. If not, I will have guard watching over her forever. And and the dwarfs are like a little hesitant, like, we can't give Snow White up. And the head one is like, the head dwarf is like, no, I think we should do this, because we can't keep guarding her. We can't keep guarding her. We can't guard her all the time. The animals are trying to guard her. I mean, he's got loads of people that can guard her, and things like that. Now, I will say, in this version, I think the dwarfs gave up a little too early, but time crunch, y'all. I mean, this wasn't a very long movie. It's like an hour and 30. It's a typical movie. I mean, they can't make this delay go on anymore. But, still, they do are fighting it, and they're like, oh, we don't know. And they're like, nah, he'd be able to protect her. We can't keep her out here in the woods. All it would take is let's face it, the tree she's right in front of could fall on her. No, we need to send her to where she needs to be. She's a princess. She should be in a gorgeous castle being guarded. So the dwarf's like, yeah, go ahead and take her. At that point, the men show up, and the prince is like, hey, put her on the carriage. She's coming back with us. We're going to take care of her and, make sure she's safe. So at this point, the dwarfs no longer appear, which upsets me because I absolutely loved the dwarfs in this movie. Fantastic group of actors. Absolutely love it. So at this point, they're going through and a snowstorm hits and a tree falls. Like I said, tree landing on Snow White, right? Well, a tree falls in front of the carriage that was carrying Snow White. Snow White falls off the back end, lands on the ground, and instantly pops the apple out. Now, I know a lot of people I mean, bad CG must be attached to some Snow Whites, because this one definitely had bad CG. So the apple core, not the bite of the apple, the whole apple core, you know, the thing we saw the witch cut in half. No, the whole apple core magically showed us Snow White's mouth. This is where the cringe comes in for me. But it's okay. You know, horrible graphics, it's okay. So the whole apple core comes out, goes flying into the sky, changes route, and heads straight to the castle. Now this is why I'm okay with this bad CGI, because it smacks the evil queen in the face while she's sleeping. I mean, thwack. So funny. Queen's like, oh god, what was that? I mean, if you're gonna do bad CG, at least make it hilarious, because that was hilarious. I love that scene. I don't know why. It tickles my little kid funny bone like no tomorrow. Just goes like totally just horrible graphic. Goes flying into the sky, changes route completely, and just smacks the queen while she's sleeping. So funny. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the next scene is the prince and Snow White riding on his white horse into his kingdom. Now, I know this is supposed to be the finale. I don't know what it is with some of these canon films, but they do this whole route where they're at the end and like there's not much smiling going on. Like at first I tried to get as many pictures of them smiling, but there's a lot of pictures where they're not really smiling. The prince is. Snow White's like just very, I mean, let's face it, she's kind of had a rough couple, you know, issues. I mean, your evil stepmom tried to kill you when you were a kid, and this, just, you know, I grant you, but I mean, I was expecting a little more smiling going on, but it could have been the director, I don't know. But yeah, so of course they get married, you know, they're planning to get married. The king's definitely happy with Snow White, you know, beautiful girl, yes, okay, you can marry her, blah blah blah. And the evil queen, of course, gets an invitation, like, because all the royal kings and queens in the area get invited to, you know, the prince's wedding. So she's like, oh, they say she's beautiful, well, she can't be any beautiful than I am. So she, you know, gets all dressed up, goes in front of the mirror as always, and says, mirror, mirror, who's the prettiest of them all? And the mirror, being the troublemaker it is, says the prince's new bride is. Well, we know who the prince's new bride is. The mirror didn't want to tell the queen who the prince's bride was. And the queen gets so fed up. She's like, I just got rid of Snow White 3 times. No one is prettier than me. She grabs this little castle snow globe, whips it at the mirror, and just pees off that mirror. Like, seriously. And the mirror starts screaming at her, doing the creepy, horrific, you know, magic mirror thing. The queen gets so angry, just storms off. Now, this is an interesting part when it comes to the lore behind the queen and the mirror. They are connected. You don't realize that until this point, because she just basically casts the mirror aside. As she's walking away, bits of her clothing fall off. Whenever the mirror shatters, another piece does, and the queen starts getting older. Another crack, another incident. Now we flash forward to the wedding. Snow White is looking gorgeous. She's coming down the aisle. She meets the prince. Queen shows up like, how beautiful is this woman? I don't believe it. Veil gets lifted, reveals Snow White. She calls Snow White's name. Snow White gets this creeped out face. I do not blame her. I mean, can you imagine hearing a raspy, old, nasty voice that sounds like the woman trying to kill you so many times at your wedding? That is some Reddit stuff. I mean, could you not see this in a Reddit story? I mean, she like, heck no. The mirror completely starts shattering, and then we fast forward to the queen leaving, because everyone's making fun of the queen at this point, and she's like, I ain't gonna be here. So as she's leaving, this is like where the creep factor of this mirror and the evil queen gets. So the mirror's faces, all the faces around that talk throughout the whole movie, start breaking. As they do, oh my god, the queen's head shattered like glass. Horror inducing. I mean, I made sure to take this picture. It's not gory, it's just creepy. And I kid you not, like, seriously, practical effects can totally have wonderful moments compared to CG. I am totally a practical effects person. Yeah, CG has its place, but I mean, look at this. Imagine being a little kid and you see that woman shatter, and then the mirror shatters, and then a pile of dust is there. Like, she totally goes out, you know, Mother Gothel style on this. I mean, fantastically done. And then, you know, Snow White and the prince live happily ever after, and that's the end of the story. story. And so absolutely wonderful. I absolutely loved it. Very good. The other thing I liked about this, and I wanted to save it to the end, because as you know, no offense to the prince and adult Snow White, I love the interaction with the king and Snow White. And you're probably wondering what happened to the king, because most Snow White stories do not mention what happened to Snow White's father. Everyone talks about how the Snow White's mom passed away, but no one talks about what happened to the Snow White's dad. In this one they do. When they come back from the hunting group and the king is told that Snow White was dragged off by wild wolves and or a bear or whatever, he's like, I don't want none of this. You have my kingdom, you have that. I'm going off to some war. I'm gonna try to fight the good and not think about my lost loved ones. And then he dies on the battlefield. I mean, seriously, like, that's insane. He lost the only thing he ever loved, and he's like, I can't do this, y'all. I'm done. This crown is taking my queen. This crown is taking my kid. I'm done. I'm going off to some battlefield, and if I die, I die. I mean, seriously, dude. You know, the stereotypical story is like, oh, he just wanted to marry the prettiest lady in the land, and that's when he married the evil queen. Now, this king had props, man. Kudos to that king. I love the storyline. It touches base on the queen visiting 3 times. It doesn't make Snow White feel like she's a complete idiot. She can be ditzy, but she's not a complete idiot. And the dwarfs are really silly and fun, but they're also smart when they need to be, and it's a serious situation. The king is absolutely a doting father. You know, he didn't marry just to marry for, you know, a beautiful queen. I mean, loved this version because of that. I love most of the canons. Now, is this my favorite canon fairy tale? No, it is not. If you want my favorite one, putting up the little link right here on the side, that is The Frog Prince. That will always be my favorite canon movie, fairy tale. But anyway, so I hope you guys love this. Go check out the movie. But let's get into Snow White's actual main, you know, the king, the queen, Snow White, and oh my god, this video is so long. Like, oh my god, this video has been going on for 45 minutes. So, you know, how about we just do all the cast in the next video? Anyway, go check out this movie, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little playthrough on it. And here is my finished art piece. Hope you guys like, and talk to you later. Bye!